the environmental, health, and sport issues. So here are the topics that we are going to discuss. And again, this lecture is divided into two. We have the part one and part two. So this is the part one video. So here are the topics that we are going to discuss. Number one are issues on segregation of waste, smoking ban, firecracker ban, Dengvaxia issue. This was very noisy before, the Dengvaxia issue on Philhealth ID, HIV positive and AIDS cases, ethical issues surrounding gene therapy. So this is um, on the part of video. Issue on cutting of trees, issue on mining, issue on malnutrition, issue on the use of mobile phones, and issue on Philippine sports. So those are the topics that we are going to discuss for today. So now let's go to issues on segregation of waste. So do you know how to segregate your waste? Do you have these receptacles, these garbage bins at home? Do you segregate it? So in the segregation of waste, what do you mean by segregation of waste? It's separation or isolation or dividing type of waste. So the type of waste are dry, we have the recyclable plastic bottles, bags, etc. And they are mostly, or they can be sold to a recycler. Hazardous or e-waste, we have the batteries, razor blades, etc. It can be sold to a recycler. Wet kitchen waste, used as compost for manure, and toilet waste disposed by housekeepers. So this is the ideal segregation of waste. So waste on the streets. The segregation of waste and improper waste disposal are the biggest problem of waste management agencies and people in the country. The Philippines still ranked third top source of plastic thrown in oceans, according to February 2015 study. And imagine this, a single resident, ikaw, ako, can produce an average of 0.7 kilogram waste per day. So almost 1 kilo of waste per day. And pila ta katawo diri sa Philippines. What are the causes? Many households place their waste in only one container, saksak sinagol. And that may be due to laziness or lack of container for waste disposal. We have this attitude that out of sight, out of mind. Pati ang wet and dry, gisagol. Waste collectors do not collect the waste materials if not segregated. So munang hugaw kayo ang streets, kaya dili ra kwaon. Uncollected garbage remains in the streets or backyards or in front of houses. And some contain spoiled food, sanitary napkins, or diapers that can cause serious health hazard. Are you familiar with this? Can you see this in your neighborhood? So what are the effects of not segregating your waste? This is the dump site, like a smoky mountain. So waste products, it's very hazardous. Water pollution, because of the factories, wastes, and ang absorption ani, ang under soil aning garbage can leak under the soil and could contaminate the water. Of course, air pollution. So yeah, it has serious effects on ground and surface water. Surface water contamination and then flooding, kay mag-clog, it clogs the drainage, air pollution, water pollution, etc. People will suffer in the next few years of existence if we continue with this kind of activity. And even now, we are already suffering. We are already suffering from air pollution and that. And the water that we have, dili na reliable because it smells garbage. Only about 80% of Filipino families had access to safe water, and that is alarming. We should all have access to safe water because it is our right. So what is the government solution? They have ordered a Republic Act of 9003. It is passed by the Philippine Congress on December 2000 and was approved by the Office of the President the following month of 2001. So the Republic Act number 909003 is called Ecological Solid Waste Management Act of 2000. So this act makes provision for the efficient solid waste management, the volume reduction of the wastes, its environment-friendly disposal, composting, recycling, reuse, recovery, green charcoal process for the collection, treatment, and disposal in environmentally sound solid waste management facilities, whereas it shall be possible to correctly dispose the proper segregation, collection, transport, storage, treatment, and disposal of solid waste. But that was in 2001. There is already a law for it, but how is it that we still have that problem? It's still existing. Do you have that problem in your neighborhood? So it hasn't been really, it's not really implemented. Okay, let's proceed to the next issue, the smoking ban. So smoking has already been a problem in the Philippines, and so the government made this warning every time that cigarette smoking is dangerous to your health, but it hasn't been effective. Smoking is dangerous to your health. But this warning has not been very effective in stopping smokers from smoking because it has become a habit or addiction. And have you noticed there's no more commercials about cigarette because it has been banned. But despite such banning of cigarette smoking, some smokers still smoke anywhere. And I have seen an article that says those social media personalities, they are being paid to advertise cigarettes, vapes, and all that. So more than a quarter of Filipinos smoke, including more than a quarter, so meaning more than 1/4 of the population in the Philippines smoke, including 11% minors. And that was last 2015 from the World Health Organization. And President Duterte, he is a smoker, was a former smoker, quit cigarettes and drinking decades ago when he found to have two rare conditions, Barrett esophagus and Berger's disease. So usa pa siyang nakaka-realize nga nagkasakit na siya. So what is Barrett's esophagus? So for you to know, so normally, this is the normal lining of our esophagus. So this is the stomach, and this is the esophagus. This is where your food enters. And naay gamay lining dira nga mo close. Mura na siya og pareho sphincter, pareho sa inyong anus nga mo open and close, right? So na siya sphincter dira kay dili tanan kay para dili mo gawas ang acid from your stomach. So fuot ko na siya. But in your Barre esophagus, it's loose. That's why mugawas ng fluid, and that causes heartburn, and it damages the lining of your esophagus. So mo ni siya. So this is the normal lower esophagus, and in Barre it's open. Kinadaot na siya, and na damage na pud ang lining sa esophagus because there is acid reflux from the stomach. And Berger's disease, it's a diminished blood supply that causes the damage and death of the tissues. Dili na because of smoking, this is actually caused by smoking. And if you smoke a lot, it could cause obstruction of the blood vessels. Mugamay, munipis, pareho sa munipis ang blood vessels. So dili na makaabot ang oxygen sa tips and mga peripheries. So mostly your fingertips or sa toes. So kung wala na yung blood supply dira na area, mamatay. Wala na yung food ang cells dira na area, so they would die. So that's Berger's disease. And the definitive cause of that is cigarette smoking. And so first-hand experience ni President Duterte, so that made him to really ban smoking. So the Department of Health advised this is nationwide smoking ban, the Executive Order of 26, providing for establishment of smoke-free environment in public and enclosed places that begins on July 23, 2017. So this executive order forbids the use of tobacco, including electronic cigarettes, in all public spaces, even in sidewalks. So public places, you have schools, playground, restaurants, stairwell or elevators, basketball court, health centers, hotel, malls, taxi, bus, all these. And it also prohibits anyone under 18 from using, selling, or buying cigarettes or tobacco products. In the Philippines, before we are used to being asked, the children being asked by their uncles or fathers to buy cigarette for them. Now they're not allowed to do that because cigarettes are not to be sold to children or person under 18 years old. And tobacco cannot be sold within 100 meters or about 330 feet of schools, playgrounds, or anywhere children might gather. So dapat walay duol na baligi ang sigarilyo sa inyong eskwelahan. And persons in charge should ensure no smoking signage appears in conspicuous places. And LGU Smoke-Free Task Force, Smoke-Free Task Force that will monitor the implementation of the executive order with the Philippine National Police. So smoking will be allowed only in designated smoking area, narrow designated smoking area, but not everywhere. Violations shall be subject to applicable sanctions under Republic Act 9211. It's an hotline. And also for those smokers who want to quit, because it's difficult, there is a DOH quit line who will help you how to stop smoking. So ikaw, are you smoking? And if you do, if you want to quit, you can always call this number and they would help you how to quit. Okay, Firecracker Ban. So also, this has also been an issue uh, since the um, since President Duterte is in power. So he also banned firecrackers. The use of firecrackers, as we all know, signify celebration of an event and has been going on since American period. And we use it during parties, events, especially during New Year's Eve. But unlike before, unlike the old days, there are 100 sorts of firecrackers being manufactured and sold in the market. And with that, every year, people have died and injured due to firecracker use. So, our president made an executive order number 28, signed by the president in June 2017. So, it bans fireworks in households or place of residence nationwide and shall only confine its use of firecrackers for community works display. So, dili pwede sa balay, but community fireworks lang, like sa malls, fiesta, events, parks, exhibition. But it should also be allowed by the municipality, city concerned through a permit. So they should ask if they should ask for a permit. And in the permit, it specifies the date and time of the firework display and the specific area in which the display will be conducted in conformity with national standards, rules, and regulations. So, if kailangan ka magpa-party sa inyong barangay, dili pwede sa inyong balay. You can have it in an open space, but you need to have a permit. Because if wala kay permit and you did that, you'll be sanctioned. So again, conducted under the supervision of a trained person duly licensed by the Philippine National Police. And because of this banning, in 2017, there are 0 deaths caused by firecrackers. And there are only 630 firework-related injuries, 292 cases, or 32% lower than last year's count. And the very common dangerous firecrackers that's been prohibited since this executive number was signed are Piccolo and 5-star, which caused 192 injuries and 32 cases. Okay, now let's proceed to another issue, the Dengvaxia issue. So this was just very recent and controversy about the use of anti-dengue vaccine Dengvaxia in our country. And this is not just in our country, it's also in other countries, the third world country. Maraong mga ginipig ang mga third world countries, Philippines, India. In November 2017, the Department of Health suspended a school-based vaccination program utilizing the French drug-based vaccine maker Sanofi Pasteur Dengvaxia vaccine because reports circulated that several children died from various complications allegedly attributed to the dengue vaccine. The parents would know because they know how their children act before the injection. After the injection comes the complications. And then when there are already alleged uh, complaints, or there are already complaints, shortly after, the company, the Sanofi Pasteur, made a statement that its product poses higher risk to people without prior dengue infection. So kung walay prior dengue infection, it poses higher risks. So these families of children who were immunized with Dengvaxia vaccine and their supporters from Gabriela Party List group picketed in front of the Department of Health main office in Manila to protest the implementation of the 3.5 billion dengue immunization program without sufficient clinical trials. So ni agreed the government funded 3.5 billion for such immunization by that company without clinical trial, hence the complication. So these are the mothers of the victims. Dengvaxia corruption, because there's money involved, politicians involved, corruption. Looy kaayo ang mga bata. Maitag ilahang mga bata, no? Dengvaxia fiasco. It's a corporate greed. Dengvaxia criminal neglect. So yeah, it's a lesson to everyone about vaccination. The Department of Justice and the Senate has already investigated the issue. Former President Benigno Aquino, because during that time, he was the president who approved the vaccine immunization, and some members of his cabinet attended the investigation. So, well, in my opinion, this is my opinion. I really am not into vaccination. It's not an immunization. It's wrongly termed, and that is just my opinion. And and especially I don't allow the government to decide what's good for my child. Because if magdaot akong anak, sila ba ang mo galam? Dili. So I hope that the parents should be aware and should be informed of the advantages and disadvantages, especially if it's about vaccination, before they agree. So the Dengvaxia issue has been a lesson to us. We are not guinea pigs. Okay, let's proceed to the next issue on Philhealth ID, because I have a lot of things to say about vaccination, but I'll keep it to myself. Okay, so what's the issue with Philhealth ID? So the Senate Minority Leader Ralph Recto said the scraping of the No Health ID, No Benefits policy is one of the many provisions crafted by the Senate to guarantee universal health coverage. And they've proposed a 3.35 trillion national budget for that. So meaning before, when you go to the hospital, dili ka mag-benefit, the government will not help you if you don't have the Philhealth ID. So they scrape it out because not everyone, especially the poorest of the poor and those in the mountains, they do not know how to get an ID. So with this mandate, they've scraped out, removed this policy so that everyone can have can have an access of universal health coverage. But of course, this universal health coverage has qualifications. The same with your SAP, net qualifications. Not all will be given the coverage. Kay the poorest of the poor only qualified for it. So dili siya sa tanan. In the attainment of universal coverage, no Filipino, whether a Philhealth member or not, shall be denied of Philhealth benefits. Philhealth identification card is not necessary in the availment of benefits. So every Filipino nanay discounts when they go to the government hospitals, because they'll be under the health coverage of the government. So before, mahal kaayo ang hospital, they just opt to just buy cheap coffins. But because of the PhilHealth, this policy, and with the 3.35 trillion budget, I hope that it's really, really implemented, especially to help the poorest of the poor. So the major PhilHealth related initiative pushed by Senator Lauren Legarda under this issue appropriated 3 billion for paying the insurance premiums of the estimated last 8 million uninsured Filipinos. So if you are a PhilHealth member, nakay premium bayaran. So premiums are the monthly bills na imong bayaran for that insurance. But for sa mga publikayo, the government will pay for them. That is the government in health insurance. If you go for a private insurance, health insurance, and you have or life insurance, then you have the um, Manulife or the Sun Life or something like that. But mahal ang premium, meaning mahal ang monthly payment. So as a result of the Senate move, funding for the PhilHealth social insurance program had been raised to 53.2 billion. So daw kayo ang budget sa government. This will cover 15.4 million indigent families, 3.3 to 5.5 million senior citizens, and 48,000 individuals under the government Peace and Reconciliation Pamana program, and the last 8 million uninsured individuals. Government subsidy to PhilHealth is booked separately from the Department of Health budget. So the budget for Philhealth is different in lahi ang sa Department of Health. Okay, and the last topic for this video is the HIV positive and AIDS cases. So there has been a increase of cases. The Department of Health has recorded 1,761 HIV positive cases and 578 AIDS cases from January 1984 to September 2002 from persons ages 20 to 39 years old, because these ages are sexually active. But that was in 2002. Recently, nagka-bata ang affected. So what's the difference between HIV and AIDS? So HIV is the virus, the human immunoglobulin virus. No, oh, is it correct? Anyway, the HIV is the virus. So if it is present in your system, then you are positive for that. So it's a virus. So if you have a weak immune system, then it could affect you. AIDS is when you have HIV and apektahan ang imuhang immune system. So you got weakened. So if your immune system is weak, then the HIV will be the one controlling your body. And so manulod na ang mga opportunistic bacteria. You have the pneumonia and all those things, and those are the ones that could kill you. So mana, HIV positive and AIDS. So if you have HIV but you have a good immune system, and there are also retroviral medications that you can also take, then pwede siya asymptomatic. You have that, but you're asymptomatic. You don't have any symptoms related to AIDS. But if your body is weak, you have pre-consisting infection, the same with all other virus, just also the same as COVID-19. If you have pre-existing conditions and it weakens your immune system, so the HIV, the virus will thrive, meaning they would control the mechanisms of your cell. Thus, the more you'll be weak. So, that's actually how the virus works. So, all kinds of virus. However, the U.S. Central, so this record from the Department of Health, but the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency said that there were about 28,000 Filipinos infected with AIDS or HIV, and that 1,200 of it died in 1999 alone. The country has experienced a sharp rise in the new HIV infections in the recent years, also because of the testing. You know what? Same with COVID-19. Increase because increase sad ang testing. Prevalence among men who have more or mostly taas sa men who have sexed with men. So number of newly diagnosed HIV cases per day. So 2008 1, and in June 2016, 26. Again, that also relates to the increased testing facilities and dagan ang nagpa-tests. Before, wala man kaayo. The Philippines has become the country with the fastest growing HIV epidemic in Asia and the Pacific, and has become one of 8 countries that account for more than 85% of new HIV infections in the region. Most of these infections occur in 117 high burden areas, including the National Capital Region, Rizal, Cavite, Laguna, Batangas, Bulacan, Cebu, Davao, Tagum, Cagayan de Oro, Iligan, Zamboanga, General Santos City, Coronadal, Butuan, Iloilo, Bacolod, Puerto Princesa, Tacloban, Naga, Lucena, Angeles, Mabalacat, Tarlac, San Fernando, Cabanatuan, Olongapo, and Baguio. So 26 people are diagnosed per day. 9 out of 10 are asymptomatic, meaning they don't experience the symptoms. Again, that's actually how the virus works. 63% of women living with HIV are pregnant. So, manang ko ano, like there is really a misconception with the virus. And there is, as a nurse, I've followed different doctors from all around the world because I love listening. I like research. There is this doctor that I'll share you a video about uh, an interview of a doctor and his views about COVID-19 and all types of viruses. I'll share that with you and I hope you'll make time to watch it. It's really very informative. Okay, going back, the Department of Health is urging those who are sexually active to always use condoms. The health department previously considered the idea of distributing condoms in schools, but this plan was eventually rejected by the education department because they think that you are promoting sex. No. And then they also have the sex education, but I don't know how it is now. So yeah, it's more of education, and education starts in our houses, with our parents or with our elders. So, and nowadays we have access to information. Ignorance is a choice because we have access to information. Make use of your time to learn. If you have any questions about this and that, you have the internet to supply you, but make sure criticize the correct sources, not dilipid ka to nga fake news.